Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Young Leaders Podcast. This is the podcast for producers and professionals in the first 5 years of their dairy careers. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and it's my mission to connect you with others who are like you, driven to make a difference and determined to do it in the dairy industry. Whether you are on the farm or in the field, this is the place to plug in to hear how your peers are overcoming challenges and stepping up to lead the way as dairy's future decision makers, movers, shakers, and innovators. You can find this special new podcast series with new episodes every other week on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast and also on its own platform, Uplevel Dairy Young Leaders Podcast. And we're kicking off this very first episode with Young Leader Kiley Pagel. Kiley's just wrapping up her degree in business management with an economics minor at the University of Green Bay while working full-time in Pagels family businesses and at Pagels Ponderosa Dairy in Casco, Wisconsin. You are going to hear about the biggest decision she made in the homestretch of her college career that changed her course but got her on a path to true fulfillment. How she learned to organize and prioritize so she can do all the things she loves, and who has inspired her to make dairy her career path. She's spunky, smart, and has a big heart. Let's get to know this Uplevel Dairy young leader, Kiley Pagel.
A little bit about my family's farm and kind of my background. My family's dairy started in 1946 with my great-grandfather Carl and great-grandmother Garnet. When they purchased the farm, it had 8 cows. And then in 1980, my grandfather John purchased the farm from his parents with 65 cows. In 2018, my grandfather unfortunately passed away, and that left some pretty big boots to fill for my dad, aunt, and uncle. And they took his passion, my grandfather's passion of dairy farming and agriculture, and they ran with it. And they have kept the farm afloat. Everything is great. We are now currently milking 5,550 animals. And I came back to the dairy as an intern first while I was in high school through a youth apprenticeship program. I left for a little while, did an internship during college as a financial accountant, and ultimately came back to the dairy. And I'm working as a marketing advisor, as well as dabbling in HR. So I originally started college at St. Norbert's in De Pere, Wisconsin, and I was an accounting major. And I stayed there for about a year and a half, and then I ultimately decided to transfer to UWGB. And even then, I was still an accounting major. And it wasn't until a few months ago, fall semester of 2022, that I decided to change my major to business management.
So what prompted Kiley's shift from accounting to business in her last year of school? She reflects on her internship experience, and while it was a very positive one, it also gave her a glimpse of what her day-to-day would be as an accountant. And that's when she realized that may not be the right path for her.
My freshman year, I finished it and applied for an internship in upstate New York on a whim. Wasn't sure anything was going to come from it, and I got the email. She wanted me to come to move to New York within a week. So I packed up my life and I decided, hey, I'm going to move to upstate New York and I'm going to be on my own for the first time ever, and we're going to see how it's going to go. And with being there, I was working for a financial consultant business, and it was with all egg-based companies. So every day you went to a different farm, a different business. I worked with a cheese store. I worked with small dairy farms, some larger scale dairy farms, and just doing their basic accounting needs. And that was ranging from anything to payroll to looking through reports, analytics side of things, making different spreadsheets for them to analyze different things, and just putting in all the work that a normal accountant would do as an intern. I love going on site to farms, but coming back here, I realized that the accounting side of things, it was going to be in an office, and I really thrived in being able to go and work with people and talk to different people every day. The duties of the day were always different. They were never the same. So I got a lot of change every single day, and nothing was repetitive. And so that's what kind of got me to switch my degree. And I wanted to stay somewhat with the business side of things, just so I could have those different backgrounds, different avenues. And with the economic minor, it just kind of seemed like the right path to take. And so I decided ultimately to go with that business management degree. And it's teaching me a lot about working with teams and just being a leader. And I feel like with my career path that I'm on, that's going to be huge with my future. And it's even being a big part of what I'm doing now and what I can bring back to the farm here while I'm still learning in school.
And as Kiley finishes up school, she's wasting no time implementing what she is learning from her leadership and team building courses on the dairy.
So a lot of my classes are based around learning to work with teams and being able to manage teams. And I think that's where the management comes out of that business major. And every class is set up to look at different pieces of that leadership and that teams. So there's anything going from working with diverse teams to working with teams where it's just one or two people to working with broad teams that have 50 to 60 people. Every single class that I'm in is setting you up to be able to handle everyday situations that could come up. And it's anything from learning different models that you can use within your teams to kind of either problem solve or brainstorming for different ideas as growth is coming, and just having that broad aspect of what teamwork should look like and how teamworks will work together if you can run a team properly. So it's all about really setting us up to be able to be good team leaders and to be able to work with the team and not be overbearing with the power, and to be able to take your power and help others and not just be that overbearing leader that nobody really wants to be led by. Well, as we have seen through year in and year out, that our farm has gone generation to generation and hoping to go yet on another generation. And in my generation, there are 12 of us. So there is a lot of teams that could come out of this, whether it's me working in my accounting HR departments. Eventually, I would love to move up that totem pole. As people come in and come out, there's going to be room for growth as years go on. That growth may not be today, tomorrow, or next year, but in years to come, there's always going to have that opportunity for growth. And I feel like with these abilities, it's going to set me up for success at the end of the day, because I don't have to go through the motions to find how to learn how to be a team on a team and lead a team, because right now I am on teams and I'm that team worker. I'm not the team leader yet, but that's setting me up to be able to lead teams one day.
Kiley has been putting her team building skills to work through the dairy's summer program.
We actually run a summer school program for 7th grade students here that we call Pagels Ponderosa Boot Camp. And about 2 years ago, I took over the lead on that. I've been a part of the team for about 4 years. I was the first class to ever be in it. And a lot of these things that I'm learning here, I'm taking them, I'm applying to my team that I'm overseeing with our setup and everything and how things are going to operate with this boot camp. But I'm also taking what I'm learning and I'm able to teach it to these students and teach them about teamwork and leadership to help set them up for when they're growing up. Because yes, they're 12 years old, but they're already on teams. They don't realize how many of these things they're actually seeing every day, where you have their sports teams and this and that and working with groups in school. It's all the same. It's just a different dynamic of a team. So I'm taking what I'm learning, I'm applying it to my teams there, but I'm also helping teach it to apply it to these younger kids and hopefully leaving them with something that they will remember. I've always said that at the end of boot camp, if there's anything that these kids leave with, I want them to leave with the knowledge of teamwork.
So what does Kiley say is the biggest challenge she's faced so far in her dairy career, and how is she overcoming it?
I am still pretty young, but that doesn't mean that I haven't had struggles to overcome. I am somebody who likes to keep a very full plate, whether that is taking on different projects here at work, not saying no, but also I coach high school volleyball. I work full-time. I'm a full-time student, as you said, and I have a part-time job on the weekends just for fun. My plate is extremely full. So there's days where I get to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and I don't get home till 11 o'clock at night. And that's just with how many things I'm doing. I'm keeping that plate full. And that is totally on myself. That's what I like to do. But it's also a struggle because you have time restrictions at work. When coaching volleyball, every other day I have to go coach a game. And whether I'm traveling to northern Wisconsin or just 20 miles down the road, I have time restrictions there where I have to be getting on the bus to take care of these girls and watch over them. And just showing up to work, leaving work on time, and all these different things. So I had to become very good at my time management and still being able to separate my work life and my personal life. And that's been a really big struggle for a while because I was going home and I wanted to keep working because I didn't want to fall behind. And I never, obviously we all fall behind at some point to another, but I never wanted to ever upset anybody. I always want to make everybody happy. And at the end of the day, I know that can't always happen, and that's something that I've had to be okay with. But with those struggles, I've learned to persevere and just push for what I want, because at the end of the day, the struggles are what's going to make me stronger. And they're everyday life struggles. They're struggles I'll have for the rest of my life. And I just have to find the different ways to look at things and observe things at a more positive note than, oh, wow, I have this deadline. It's due today. I don't think I can do it. No, I have a deadline that's at the end of the day and I need to get this done and I can do this. So it's just taking that extra mental note saying that, yes, I can do this, instead of looking at it as, oh, this is just another bump in the road, another hoop to jump through. What am I going to do? Take it as it is and run with it, I found. Like, looking at things with that positive outlook and just being able to look at my calendar and break things out in a timely manner has really been like my saving grace with how much I do. Even if I have deadlines from work or whatnot, I'll give myself a deadline that's a few days to a week before, so I can ensure that that's getting done. And then I can even hand it in early, be like, hey, I need second set of eyes on this before we go through with, whether it's a social media post or printing on the marketing side. I need an extra set of eyes before I go for approval. Can somebody take a look at this? And then they can find something that I may have overlooked. They can come back, give it to me, and I still can have it almost perfection before handing it over.
Building back deadlines is what has helped her manage a full plate of things that she has said yes to. But what has Kiley learned to say no to?
I'm still trying to figure that out, I think. I've always thought in the fact that I don't want to say no because I don't want to disappoint. But there are days where it comes down to it where I just have to. There's a week that I have 8 to 10 deadlines that I'm just scrounging to try to get through. I know I need to say no. But I take a step back, I'll look at the time constraints that I have, the time that I have to fill, and then go from there. Because we also do tours here at the farm. I had those as well through the marketing. A lot of times tours will come in and call at 24-hour notice, and I have to move my entire day around just to do that. But tours is something that we love to do, so we don't want to give it up. We don't ever want to say no to somebody that wants to come in and learn. So it's moving things around, and there always will be a time where I may have to say no, but it's probably one of my other struggles is that I don't know exactly how to say no, but I am learning every day how to.
So how has this young professional with a full plate learned to prioritize her tasks and obligations?
Said with the tours, that is farm priority, that becomes my priority. And we do have a second tour guide as well, but I'm the main one that if I can't do it, he's my next go-to to see, because there's times where you have important meetings, you cannot move around those meetings, you have to be there. So I do have a backup plan for tours always, but we're not both always going to be here. So it's ultimately my thing to prioritize overall. And then kind of the next thing that you would look at is with the HR side of things. I do a lot of important data entry that these numbers have to be put in each and every single day. It's not like I can take a day and be like, oh, HR can wait for a day or two. No, that's something that's my next priority. That has to be in, because if I'm not putting stuff in, that's messing up things in the barn, that's messing up the cow guys, and that's not fair to them if I'm not doing my job. I need to prioritize for them so they can do their job, because at the end of the day, it's on me if those things aren't going in. So that's definitely would be the next thing. With the social media and stuff, I try to do 1 week a month where I'll sit and separate it out between days, where I'll try to get scheduled posts for an entire month, so that way I'm ahead. And if anything comes up, I can make something up quick, 15, 20 minutes, and there we go. It's ready to get posted. But so I'll separate about an hour or two every day at the beginning of the month to just get things for the next month to follow. So I try to be a month ahead always. That obviously doesn't always happen. We're in busy season now with cropping. Then just around the corner, we have Christmas. We have busy season at the cheese store. And like I said, I can never say no, so I'm helping out everywhere that I can. And so it's just the difference of prioritizing there, that the social media, not always on the very top of my list, but it is the way that we educate the community, and it's the way that we can help people understand what we're doing here. So if somebody drives past the farm, well, why do they have trucks going in and out of the yard at all hours of the day? Why are there tractors driving on these ginormous green hills? Well, these are corn silage hills. Our trucks and tractors are bringing in the silage from the fields. This is how we're going to feed our cows. Just something as simple as a post saying just that to show the community what's going on. Because we want to be very open-ended. That's another reason why we do tours. We want to let people come in and see what we're doing. We want to show, like, we have everything. We want to give everybody all the knowledge that we have to give. So that's probably my next priority. Well, it's not as high on the totem pole, social media. We just have to be educating people. We have to be out there. We have to have a voice. Because otherwise, people can go and talk all they want behind you. When you're on the forefront explaining what's going on and educating, that's really what's going to be there for you. And then we look at everything else I do. We have volleyball, and I work my schedule around, so I'm out of office at a specific time every day, and I stick to that throughout all volleyball season. And then I have my extra days where I have to be on the bus traveling like we talked about before, and that's sometimes where if I have a social media post that I have to make up in 10, 15 minutes, I can do that on the bus ride because it's just me with my thoughts myself in a seat, and I can just grab my computer out and do little things like that.
Kiley has a couple of tools for keeping herself organized between school, work, and coaching volleyball.
Sticky notes are the best thing ever made. You can look at my desk and my wall, and I have sticky notes everywhere. But it's not almost for having the sticky note there. It's the fact that I'm able to write it down. If I have it in a notebook, that note, I have 8 million different notebooks that for 8 million different things. If I lose a notebook, I'll never see that note again. So I have my sticky notes, or at least I'm writing it down. There's that little extra it's in my head that I know it's there. I also utilize my work calendars a lot through my emails, so that way I'm getting reminders of everything. I have my personal calendar and my work calendar, and they're both talking to me every day about everything I have going on, so that's also a huge help. They also make a sticky note app for your computer that you can type your sticky notes just right on your screen, so you always have them, even if you're traveling, where you can't be at your desk. So then there's my second time of writing it down, so it's also there. But so yeah, sticky notes is my lifesaver.
So I asked Kiley, as a young professional who changed courses and found her own path forward, what's the advice she would give to her younger self?
I would have told Kiley, the accounting major, to take the leap of faith and just run with what you know. Because that girl, well, the girl now that you have sitting here now is still terrified of ever upsetting anybody and making people. I just always been the person that wants to make somebody proud. I never, ever wanted to upset anyone, and I think that's why I didn't change my major for so long. I thought at the end of the day it was going to upset someone, when realistically, when I told everybody that I changed my major, everybody was ecstatic. They were so supportive. So I would just tell her not to be afraid, to run with it, go adventure, because that'd be about the time that she was contemplating if she should move to New York or not. Happily, she did, because now she knows she doesn't want to be an accountant anymore. But at the end of the day, take the leap of faith and just run with it, because, yeah, you're going to make mistakes, but you have to make mistakes to have character, and your mistakes are what's going to build you as a person. Without mistakes, that would be a boring world. Just go for it, run with it, and don't be afraid. Just do what makes you happy and do what's going to make you feel right at the end of the day.
A young, talented professional like Kiley could choose any field for her career path. So I just had to ask, what or who inspired her to make a difference in dairy?
I definitely have my grandfather, John, who was a huge inspiration in my life. Just watching everything he did day in and day out, and the sacrifices and everything he did for the dairy industry and even the broader agriculture industry. He was somebody that lived for it. His passion was deeply rooted within the dairy industry. And I mean, that just showed how much he cared for the industry, and it really brought me back in, like, just watching as I grew up and just watching his everyday actions and what he'd do. And we'd get dropped off on the bus here from school, and he'd walk out the door and just the smile on his face when all of us kids are getting off the bus. And he'd invite us all into his office, whether he's in a meeting or not. he was there for us. And whether that was us being here, getting dropped off at the farmhouse, like at the end of the day, the farm was a huge passion of his, but it was also his family. And he brought everybody, his family in. And I definitely feel that the egg and dairy industry is a huge family. At the end of the day, we all care about one another. And that family brought in, it's just that huge general aspect of it. And even after my grandfather's passing, watching my father step into his boots and try to really push. And he's always been somebody that I've gone to if I've ever had a doubt or a problem. But that's my dad, right? But now working with him and seeing it, you see people that his employees, they're going to him because they trust his opinion and they know that he can do what needs to be done. So just watching to see how he can take on a handful of problems, and he just looks at it level-headedly, and he just always seems to have the answers. I obviously know that nobody has all the answers, but he makes it look like he's not worried. He just gives you a sense of calmness. And I think he definitely got that from my grandfather, who was his dad. I think they both share that quality extremely well. But I also look at it as I have very big boots to fill, but they're two very different pair of boots. At the end of the day, I loved how my grandpa fought for the education of agriculture, and I love educating the youth on agriculture. So those are the boots that I want to fill for him. And then when I look at my dad, I think about how people feel safe coming to him with their problems, and they just generally care about his opinion. And I want to be that to people. So those are the boots that I want to fill there. So just looking at those two men in my life, they've had such an impact on the world of dairy and agriculture. They've had such an impact on me and my family that that's exactly why I came back, because just watching them grow and myself growing up on the farm, there was never a day I didn't love. Whether it's because I got to look at cute cows or not. As a kid, when I was 6 years old running around the farm, cute cows and cute calves was a really nice thing. But at the end of the day, growing up with it, that they are what brought me back.
And what are the resources that have helped Kiley so far on her career path?
I think any sort of networking event that you can get into, get your hands on, whether that's, we just had World Dairy Expo, whether that's going to World Dairy Expo and just walking around the booths and meeting people in the industry. Because you may walk past a booth where you're like, I don't know who these people are. I may never need them. They could be your biggest ally one day. Or just bumping into somebody that you know and they introduce you to someone. You also have other resources like the PDPW business event. That's something I've gone to every year for many years now. Dairy Girl Network has been one that I love going to. It's a room full of women in the industry, and you are all fighting for the same thing. You all have similar stories, different stories, and everybody's just there to help aid one another. Really, any sort of networking event, especially what we're doing here now, this is going to be a huge asset and just a support system for the younger generation that there's people going through the same-ish, different struggles every single day, but this I feel like will really help in the difference of we're hearing how we're overcoming things and just being a support to one another, and that networking, that's huge.
Kiley, a young dairy leader, a dairy professional, and committed to a career path in the industry she loves. Thank you for listening to this very first episode of the Uplevel Dairy Young Leaders Podcast. If you like it, please leave a review, and you can find these episodes on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast as well as on the Uplevel Dairy Young Leaders Podcast channel every other week. And if you want a space to network and plug in with other producers and professionals in their first 5 years of their dairy career who are driven to make a difference and determined to do it in dairy just like you, join our Facebook group and find the links in our show notes. This is Peggy Coffeen, and thank you for listening to the very first episode of the Uplevel Dairy Young Leaders Podcast.